Welcome back to Bowling in the Ears. Today we're going to look at the European Championships, which would be currently on in Garding in Schleswig-Holstein, but because of the coronavirus they have been postponed. We didn't put the video up earlier in the week because we wanted it to coincide with the European Championships, which literally would be on today as we speak. And I suppose it's a big shock to the system for all of us. But I wanted it today to talk really about the 1992 European Championships, which were held in Cork. And I suppose they have a special significance for me because at the time I was Secretary of Bowl Common and I was also Secretary of the IBA. So I had a lot of work to do. I was the sort of chief organizer, although I had a lot of very, very, very good, strong, powerful people with me. Christie Santry, for instance, Christie was co-organizer with me and did a phenomenal amount, and people like James O'Driscoll and so on. So there were a lot of really good people involved in it, but I suppose I was very much in the front line, and I remember it distinctly because at the time I had just started working in UCC, and I remember I had a key to the office and I was in every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and I was there until maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. It was a really very, very, very busy time for me, but it was a fantastic occasion. It was a really brilliant competition, and it started, I suppose, with organising the different venues and so on and so forth. And I remember going to visit Yardo Tapper, who was the president of the association from the FKV, and I stayed in his house maybe in the October or November because we had to set up a scheme to fund the event because it was a huge event, and we had the Metropole Hotel was the main headquarters and so on. And I remember being in Norden with Yardo Tapper and going bowling with his club, and I remember it was a winter's day and we started on the Sunday morning, and at the bus there was somebody with a bottle of schnapps, and we all had one glass of schnapps before we got on the bus, and I went with his club and I played that day with the gummy bowl on the road. So as it happens, I have some of the memorabilia from the 1992, and here I have the poster with the viaduct in the background, and it was sponsored by Murphy's Brewery at the time, and Murphy's were really good sponsors of bowling for many, many, many years. I think going back actually 100 years at least to the 1920s, and they were the sponsors then, and this is the program that we used. And I have some other things that were part of the event as well. This is a car pass. So if you want to get into the competition area, you could use that. And I still have some unsold tickets from the night at the Greyhound track. We ran a big fundraiser, Murphy Stout International Greyhound Racing, Cork Greyhound Stadium. And that Cork Greyhound Stadium was on the Western Road in Cork. At Curraheen Park, and that was a great occasion, great event, and we had these, and I think we were selling these, and I think also they were handed over to the different teams when they got here, and it was with nice logos and a lot of very nice stuff, and that's, I suppose, the value of a good sponsor. And we had a really good venue. I think that was super venues. The lofting was in St. Finbarr's, GA Club in Toker, and the Dutch Moors were on the Lee Fields, and we were lucky that the Cork City Council gave us the Lee Fields, but also John A. Woods' gave us the field. It was Richard Wood was the farmer. He was a member of the family, and he gave us the land without any problem at all. Actually, he was very, very facilitative. And then we had the bowling on the Lee Field on the Cargrahan Straight Road. And the Cargrahan Straight Road is a very famous road in Cork. For many years it was the longest piece of straight road, and there was all kinds of land speed records and all kinds of things done there. So we were really lucky in terms of the venue, and I think it was estimated that something like 20,000 people attended, especially on the Sunday for the road bowling. Huge number of people out from the city, really good weather, so it was a fantastic success.
I believe there was an RTE programme made.
There was a really good programme, so it was covered by RTE. And they did a really good job, and I think we might try and find the link for that. I think it might be online and people could go and see it, because it's nice to see it now, you know. And the poster here is just kind of funny because it's a very small crowd, but actually there were thousands upon thousands of people there, so it was massive crowds, way bigger I think than we anticipated. And I remember on the Thursday we had the official opening in the city, and I remember we came up Parnell Place and we turned left and then wheeled around and came down Patrick Street, and it was a massive turnout. And I remember I got quite emotional because it was such a big event and there were so many people in the city, and wow, what's all of this and everything, and with all the different teams and so on. So it really was a big occasion for us.
And you were talking about all the people that were involved in organising it. You mentioned Christie Santry, James O'Driscoll. I think Neil Murphy was also.
Neil Murphy did the score board for us, and sometimes people probably, you know, these people don't mention. But I remember we got a guy called Bo. I don't know what Bo's proper name is, but he painted a beautiful scoreboard for us, and Neil manned that scoreboard the whole weekend. Neil from Clonakilty. And he did a super job, great job, great guy. And I suppose the other things, I mean, we had great coaches. Susan Green, who later became chairperson, she was involved coaching and playing, actually. And we had Pat O'Sullivan, who was a great champion on the moors himself, and Johnny Creedon, who we mentioned in previous ones. They were coaches. They did a great job. And for me, I suppose one of the personal things that I really felt good about was Mick Barry, and I have a photograph of him here someplace. Mick Barry refereed one of the scores, and that was a great thing for me. The great Mick Barry refereed one of the scores, and I remember him saying to me, because I suppose I was trying to organise everything. He said, take it easy. He was a little bit too much, but anyway, I have a photograph of him here, and sent from the great Mick Barry himself to me, so that's something that I cherish a great deal. So that was it. Yeah, so it was a big occasion. Yeah.
And so how was? We'll talk about some of the events now. Did you want to tell us about the lofting?
Yeah, the lofting, and I suppose again people can watch the videos and so on. But the lofting was out in St. Finbarr's, and we got really good weather for that. And the thing that I remember most about the lofting, and is something I will never forget. We were measuring, and Pat O'Sullivan from Rosscarbery was one of the people who was measuring, and James Caverley as well was there measuring, and they were, you know, really good people to support it. But I remember I was with Pat when we were measuring the shots that the lofts that Christie Mullins was lofting, and I don't know if Pat remembers this, but I definitely remember it anyway. Christie Mullins lofted 3 times, and all of his 3 lofts were over 80 meters. But that's not the amazing thing. That is amazing in itself. But all 3 of them landed, I'd say, within a meter of each other, even closer. It was just incredible.
Oh, would you say it's almost Freudian slip? You have him written down here as Christ Mullins.
Christ Mullins. Well, he was the Messiah for Ireland that weekend for sure. And he ended up being the overall athlete of the competitions, because he did outstandingly well in all 3 disciplines. And it's not an easy thing to do, to go out 3 days in succession and perform at your absolute best, but he did. He won a silver medal in the moors, and he was the top Irishman in the lofting, and I think he was 4th overall in the road. So he was really, I suppose, at his best in those championships. And I suppose, you know, when people talk about great champions and things like that, Christie unfortunately didn't ever win a senior All-Ireland, but I think what he achieved at European level is fantastic and maybe unparalleled. I'm not too sure if any other senior player achieved as much as he achieved. You know, he was a really stylish player, and you know, the fact that he threw those 3 lofts and he landed them all in the same place just shows you, you know, he was prepared, he was focused, and he really achieved it, you know. So that was, you know, like that was fantastic, you know.
You've mentioned the moors a few times, that they were in the Leaf Fields.
Yeah, they were in the Leaf Fields, and it was a fantastic venue for them, like a really fantastic venue for them. And it's a bit risky because May can be a wet month and the Leaf Fields can flood, but that year they didn't. The weather was very, very good. And as I mentioned, Donal O'Riordan won the gold medal, and as far as I remember, Liam O'Sullivan, who would be a neighbour of his really from Skibbereen, won the silver medal for the youths. But I remember on the men's competition, it came down to the very last score, and Bill Daly was the last man out, and that's a tradition in the European Championships. The best player kind of goes last, and Christie Mullins and Seamus Sexton were well placed already for silver, and well, I suppose gold and silver really, but Bill Daly was performing anyway, and as he went into the competition, he got better and better and better, and I suppose the course was getting harder as well. But anyway, there was a big dispute. There was a dispute about marking of foul by one of the German players, and unfortunately, my official capacity was referee, overall referee of the competition, so I had to go out and adjudicate. But you know, so there was a little bit of talking, but somebody had given me some advice from Flor Crowley, who unfortunately I never met. Flor Crowley, he was a former chairperson of Bolcombe, and very, very powerful. He was the founding chairperson of Bolcombe, a very powerful person, but he had given very good advice, and somebody had shared that advice with me, and I used that advice on the day. I'm not going to say what it is now, but it turned out to be good advice. And we finished the competition. Bill Daly won the gold medal. And again, I suppose Bill Daly, you know, like he's a super competitor, you know, really super competitor, because the pressure was really on, and the more the pressure came on, the more Bill came to the fore. And it's interestingly that I think on Monday the Southern Star are running a competition to vote for, I suppose, I don't know exactly what they call it, but the great sporting heroes of the past, and there's a competition between Bill Daly and Declan Barron from Bantry, a great footballer. And I think people get to vote, but I think in terms of closing out the competition and things, Bill Daly ought to get the nod there. So that was the Moors.
And I understand that 1992 was a special championship for Bantry.
Yes, Bantry, because I mentioned Christie Mullins is from Bantry, and Donal O'Riordan is from Bantry. So Donal O'Riordan got the young player of the competition, of the whole event, and Christie Mullins got the senior men's, and I think Christie Mullins had been the overall winner in 1988 in Northern as well, if I recall correctly. So he had retained that, which was a big achievement. But I suppose, you know, what was really special was Donal O'Riordan's performance on the road, because he was an under 18, you know, so he was a young guy. And his performance, I'm just trying to remember what the figure was, 2,745 meters, that was it, 2,745 meters for 10 shots. That's an average of 274 meters a shot. So that's unbelievable. And I think if he had been in the senior men's competition, he would have won it by something like 200 meters. I mean, like, it's just a mind-blowing performance. And it was probably, for the men, it was probably a sad occasion, because it was the first time that an Irish man didn't win the gold medal, and we didn't win it again for a long, long time. Dan O'Halloran had won it in 1988, and we didn't win it again until David Murphy won it 20 years exactly later in 2008, and that was in Ireland as well. But the person who did win it was Nico Lusink, and Nico Lusink is a Dutchman, and he comes from a really famous Dutch family. His brother Jos Lusink is a very good friend of mine, and Jos was secretary of the IBA when I was chairperson or president of it, and he has triplet daughters, and they've played in the Queen of the Roads, and they have played in European Championships and so on. So they're a really famous bowling family, and interestingly, very sportingly on that occasion, the Irishmen clapped and cheered for Nico Lusink, although, you know, it was I suppose a big change of the guard for Ireland, but that was the case anyway.
And but there were Irish winners, and I think we should talk about the women's. Were there any Irish women?
Well, there was an Irish woman who won a medal, won a bronze medal, and she had the title Susan Barry at the time, but later Susan Green. And Susan showed huge leadership because she was involved in the coaching as well. And I suppose this just indicated you know, the character of the person, you know, to come out and win a bronze medal. And Susan comes from, like we were talking about famous families, she comes from a famous family as well. Her mother Mary was a great bowler, but her uncle Liam was the first Munster senior champion. So that's you know, that's a big part of the game as well, you know, her connection with Liam. So I think you know, they're the main things from the European Championships. Chris O'Donovan did very well for the Irish men, and he was actually in line to win a gold medal right until the very end. And you know, at the end, Nico Lusink just snapped it from him. Eddie Carr, I think Eddie Carr won a silver medal as well. On the road after Donald Reardon, so that was the first we'd seen of Eddie Carr, and he later won a world championship. So yeah, that was it. But I think it's important, I suppose, to remember how important the European Championships are, and I mentioned Memorabilia, so I also have the 1977 programme for the European Championships, took place in Cork, with a little scorecard inside in it. And I have a few other bits and pieces, and I have this great book which I bought in Northern in 1988. So I think the European aspect of the game is really important, and hopefully next year we will be able to resume the European Championships once we've passed with the coronavirus, and we can all go back to gardening and enjoy this very weekend in Germany. So thanks very much for staying with us. We probably went on for a long time. So thank you, and we'll be back again with another episode.